Hey, so this is the Drunkalogs, a podcast about addiction and recovery in which each guest shares their version of how it was, what happened, and how it is now, and then endures a half-hour Q&A at the hands of your host, Nick Morton. My next guest brings a brightness and light to this conversation that feels like a perfect way to start the new year. He is a very talented and funny stand-up comedian who was recently selected for the 2018 New Faces Showcase at the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival in Montreal. It is the most prestigious showcase for young comedians and helped launch the career for such well-known funny people as Amy Schumer, Jared Carmichael, and Hannibal Buress. I first met him doing shows in and about Los Angeles, and every time I saw him, he just made me laugh. And this conversation is no exception. Won't you please welcome Zach Noe Towers. Are you Zach Towers? Are you Zach Noe Towers?
Zach Noe Towers.
And is that your... That's how you've always been? Or that's since you've been doing stand-up?
I mean, my full name's Zachary Noe Towers.
And you've always gone by Zach Noe Towers?
Uh-huh.
All right. Well,
deeper into that, it's my mom's maiden name. That's why it was my middle name. My parents are divorced, and I kind of thought of it as like a nice way to rep both of them by using both. And I think Noe's really cute. Like, if I ever have a kid, boy or girl, I'll name them Noe, I think.
There was that, like, neighborhood in San Francisco.
Noe Valley, yeah.
Which always was, like, it was so super, like, chic and hip when I was young. I don't know what it's like now.
Probably still chic and hip.
Lots of brunch places. If you're going to go to brunch, you go to
Noe Valley. Yeah.
Well, then, with that in mind, take it away, Zach Noe Towers.
Zach Noe Towers. So, my alcoholism. What it was like, what happened when it's like now. I grew up in the Midwest in like an Irish Catholic family. Drinking was very prevalent. It for me, it felt like it wasn't if I was going to drink, it was when I was going to drink.
Right.
My mom, not a drinker. She'll drink like the neck of a wine cooler and be like, woo, and like put it away, which is obnoxious. But my dad, big Catholic family.
Where in the Midwest are you?
St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's like a sports town.
Yeah,
it's just like a Midwestern city. Like a lot of it is around food and drink and stuff like that. But yeah, I just like from early memories, it was like communions with kegs at them, grandma playing like flip cup or beer pong. Like it was just
so grandma was a drinker.
Oh, grandma to this day has a scotch and water in her hands at all times.
Bless her heart.
Sweet woman. She winks a lot. She want a soda? You want something else? Wink, wink, wink. She's my dad's side of the family, and they have such a sweet disposition. Like, so for me, like alcohol did not look like a problem. It looked very much like family gathering. It looked like after the soccer game. It looked like every holiday. Eggnog martini or whatever. It was cute. Like it looked
right.
And like for me, I think I found. Obviously, growing up gay, closeted as a kid, like I think that was part of my comfort. Like drinking made me feel comfortable. It took my anxiety level down, and then I found like my drinking was a way to hang.
When did you have your like first sort of like boozy drink? Like I'm doing this to get kind of fucked up.
Right. I was gonna say like I remember like first sips of alcohol were as a kid. Like my dad would grill probably like 7.
Right, yeah.
Like my dad would like grill, and this is not to paint my dad in a bad picture at all, like grill with like a beer.
Sure.
And like if I ran around the house, like did a lap of the house, he'd let me have a sip of the beer. So I was like
totally. My dad would be like, go get me a beer, and I would always
have the first sip. Yep. Or like, and then of course like he'd have like his whiskey on the rocks and like, can I try it?
Right.
Little sip, like little, and of course it burned and I was like, what? But I love my dad and he was cool and he's like the oldest in his family. So there's this like thing there, I was like, oh, like
the respectful.
Yeah. Guy, get your dad a beer,
Yeah.
But, my first boozy night was with girlfriends from high school. We were like 15 and we like were at the parents' house who like let us do crazy stuff in the basement, just like kind of unattended.
Right.
And one of us got a bottle of alcohol and like I definitely went harder than everyone else.
Totally.
And it felt like a solution. you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because at that time, 15, like, on top of all the other adolescent stuff, like, I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin.
Right.
Like, I was pretty popular, but, like, no one pushed me sexually. No one was, like, bullying me. I got bullied, of course, but, like, I wasn't in this, like, dark, depressive place. I just didn't feel comfortable, like, because I couldn't.
Were there like other gay kids in your neighborhood,
this is
or
insane.
like your?
There were a couple. There was one
Right.
in my class who was a JV cheerleader, and that was like the big thing. It was like Aaron made JV, like openly gay kid. He's like
That's
the boy,
awesome.
but one boy, you know, on the
What
team
year
of
is
girls.
that?
2003, because
Right.
I graduated
Right.
in
Wow.
04.
Right.
But I was one of the founding members of the Gay Straight Alliance at my high school
Right.
as a straight person.
Oh, right.
So like, but it
And,
just,
like, were people onto you? I mean, did you feel
yes,
like?
of course, but like, it goes to show how like so much of my disease is in my head. It's like between my two ears. Like I
Right.
projected this fear onto myself, or I wanted to fit in, or I didn't want to be different than everybody else. And I would do like I was a musical theater kid all growing up. I would bring girls from ballet as like my dates to basketball games.
Right.
These gorgeous dancers,
Right.
And everybody would be like, "Oh, damn!
Zach,
like Zach's like
Zach's
a
killing
stud,
it."
yeah." But like, see, and then we'd like make out, and then I'd be like, "Oh no, that's enough," you know, like.
How old are you at that point?
Like
when you're doing musical
17,
theater, right? Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
I mean,
right.
I did musical theater from 10 to 18,
Right.
or no, 10 to 22, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, from the big get go, and then like by senior year, I was like an A+ student, all these extracurriculars, but I was bringing like Greyhounds to class and like travel mugs, like vodka grapefruit juice.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, sure.
To
I
AP.
fucking love a Greyhound.
Oh my god, I still love grapefruit juice, but it's like, you know. But yeah, I was bringing alcohol,
to AP. You're like an
AP Spanish or
right,
math or
right. So you're like a
calculus.
great student, but
Yeah,
you're
but, like,
fucking
drinking.
boozing.
Yeah,
And like, was that like when did that start?
senior year.
Senior year, and what you were?
Yeah.
Did you just think you were cool?
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I
It
need
wasn't
this
like
to
I
get
need
through.
this. It was just like
it's just like look at me,
alcohol
right?
Neat. Guess
Right.
what I'm drinking? Blah blah blah.
And were there other kids who did that? I mean,
Sometimes I'd peer pressure people
Right.
into doing it, or I'd bring one for someone and be like, "I brought you something," and they're like,
That's
"You're
amazing.
crazy," you know.
right,
And then college felt like a wash because I feel like I went to Indiana University,
right,
Big Ten,
yeah, sure,
just tailgating, but still like Midwestern. So like, I was openly gay at this point, but like,
when did you come out?
I had a soft come out at
Right.
16. I told friends, and then a hard come out at 18, freshman year in college.
Right,
Like when I got there, I phoned like I told my mom maybe in high school, but I told my dad in college. Both totally fine.
Right.
Both just were worried life was going to be harder for me.
sure.
But I was fine. I was popular. Like it was fine. Like gay wasn't really like
The
gay.
stigma,
It wasn't the problem.
right,
But I
To
continued
you.
to yeah, for me.
right.
I mean, I of course again got bullied, got called faggot, was scared in certain situations to be myself. But
in college or high school?
Yeah, both, yeah.
both, yeah.
But college, it was like backwoods Indiana boys. Like sometimes like
Fuck man, I went to Georgetown and it was fucking backwoods
Oh,
Indiana boys.
it's
I mean, I think I
crazy.
don't know. You get you get a group of guys together, drunk on you know, with
Like
a lot of
Everclear.
testosterone
Oh, yeah,
going,
yeah.
and it's just a matter of
Yeah,
time
you
till someone
fag,
gets
yeah.
raped.
oh,
you know,
it's horrible. Yeah, it's like that mob mentality. It's very like yeah, there's fragile masculine egos floating around.
yeah, and it's I don't know. Yeah, it's just like violence is about to erupt. It always seems.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, at some point, I mean, college, like, someone said this in a meeting I went to, like, at some point, I started drinking too much too often.
Right.
And I think that's when, like, alcoholism, like, sets in.
When
And
did you feel?
I guess...
Was there a point where you noticed, like, this is too much, too often?
Yeah, I mean, I noticed starting probably in college, but I didn't get sober until I turned 30.
Right, yeah.
And that's where I, like, have this, like, weird, like, resentment towards myself because, like, I moved to LA when I was 20. After graduation, I went home for a summer.
Mm-hmm.
I bartended at a gay bar, and I worked at a
Was
restaurant.
that fun?
Oh, it was amazing. it was like the most money I had been making up to that
Right,
point.
and you're like,
being a cute, like, gay
totally
boy.
like everyone's just fucking hitting on you the whole time.
Yeah. At one point, the manager came up and he said, sales have gone up 6% since you've started working here. And I was like, cool.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, it was great. Making tons of money, being out, but like, and we got to drink while we were working. Right. So it was like, people would buy you drinks and like.
Totally.
It was amazing. But it all kind of reinforced this like thing that like alcohol was fun. Like it was like, it made me cuter. It made me feel cuter.
Yeah.
Made me feel part of the crowd. Then yeah, I moved out to LA.
And were there times in that period when you were like, I'm drinking too much too often?
Yeah, but I definitely like, it's so many things. It's like when you're 22, you bounce back faster.
There is that. And there's that sense that this is just the price of party life, you know?
And then soon.
This is the cost.
Yeah, this is gay culture.
Right.
First of all.
Oh, true too.
And then soon this is skipping forward a bit, but when I started doing stand-up, I was like, oh, we're supposed to be tortured.
Right.
We're supposed to be, hungover. We're supposed to find this like dark thing that makes us like good artists. I think it's such a cop-out.
And what brought you to LA?
LA, I always knew, even though I studied musical theater in college and did it since I was little, I always knew I wanted to be a part of TV and film. And I think that started, like, people have also talked about, like, I've heard people talk about, like, fantasy was their first addiction. And I was totally that kid. I was always imagining a greater life, always, like, not imaginary friends, but, like, imaginary scenarios, like, just playing the backyard, like, yeah, I was just a creative person. And I think
interesting.
I grew up pretty poor. So like I was always like imagining this like great big life, and like alcohol was like sexy, I guess, and I saw it in TV and film, but I always knew I wanted to do TV and film.
Right.
So LA over New York, and that's what brought me out to LA. Yeah.
So you came out here and what?
I moved out here with my best friend from college, one-way tickets, shared an attic bedroom.
Where?
So our guy friend who was older than us, moved out before us, fell in love with this rich older man.
Right.
He had a cottage near the Grove, and they had this attic bedroom on the second floor. Literally, you had to walk through a hall closet to get into it. It was like the coats you parted, and there was a door.
Oh my God.
And there's a bedroom. And so we shared an air mattress.
Right.
Then got 2 mattresses. Then we moved in with gay guys that we met at the bars and shared a bedroom there for a while. But like when we met these gay friends, like who are our age, post-college, like that's when like party drugs came into play, like coke and ecstasy or Molly or whatever. And honestly, that's when my story truly gets fuzzy.
Right. Sure.
It was a lot of the same. It was
Were you bartending, or what were you doing for work?
I was working at the Cheesecake Factory as a server at the Grove, which is my bottom. No.
Yeah. That's funny.
It was grueling. I can't believe I put up with that for as long as I did.
How long did you do it?
Like 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah, my first 4 years here.
I imagine that's good money though, right?
You would think, but no. It's like all tourists. They have like $300 checks and then don't tip.
Right.
So you're like hauling ass. Wearing
just
all
like
white, just
heaps of shit,
apologizing to assholes for nothing you did wrong, and just being really raked through the mud. But yeah, but then coke. I had so many lines in the sand, drawn in the sand, like never do coke. Like I remember shaming my friends for doing coke in college, or like ecstasy, like acid, mushroom. I drew all these like little lines in the sand and I crossed all of them.
Right.
Like coke became very much part of my before going out ritual. Like by the my mid-20s, I feel like I had this rider for being comfortable someplace. And it was like 4 drinks, 2 lines of coke, and a guy that was flirting with me.
Right.
If I didn't have like one of those things, I felt like I know things could be better. Like I know this isn't living my best life. Like, so like I sought these things to calm me, or to make me feel comfortable.
Right. Sure.
And like with anything, I think like it just gets like you set the bar at a different place, and it's like I can push myself to this limit. I felt like Molly at a Sia concert. Like, and I'm like, now I'm chasing that high. Like, I want to feel that good all the time.
Sure.
And it at some point, they say it's like, it's fun with problems, and then just problems. And so, like, I think with any, like, drug or drink, like, your body and your mind start to anticipate how you're going to feel, if that makes any sense. So it's
totally.
like, so like the first time you do Molly, obviously is like mind blowing. Have you done it before?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So like your mind opens.
Not much though. I only did it. I had a 40th birthday party. I mean, I did ecstasy here and there, but I never had like great ecstasy. I just wasn't. I think I saw myself more as like, certainly when I was younger, as like a, I don't know, like I was on some sort of religious pilgrimage. I was searching for the truth through chemicals and drugs, and I thought I was Ken Kesey, and and Molly felt like a dumb drug to me. Like it felt like just whatever. I get that from like I can get that from alcohol.
Okay,
like, if I'm gonna do something that's gonna like be that hardcore, I'm going to like get some spiritual thing out of it. I mean,
sure.
I'll do LSD or mushrooms, but
sure.
But and part of it was also like every time I took Molly, it had so much speed in it that I was like,
yeah.
And but on my 40th birthday, we had a party. I threw a party with some friends, and I remember we would have these conference calls once a week to like figure out, party planning and stuff. And I remember, and the person who was hosting it would circulate this budget, and I remember seeing on the budget there was party favors, and it was a huge number. And I was like, guys, what are we giving away?
Like,
what? I mean, they're coming to a party, and they were like, Nick,
no, it's for hard drugs.
Are you there? And I was like, oh, yeah, keep that item in there.
I just love that it was written out
on the budget,
yeah.
And so that was good. Like I remember that being like, oh, this is good. I remember like looking at the photos the next day of that party. My mother was like, oh, can I see photos of your party? And I'm like, yeah, lots of photos. And like the first like 4 photos are people like with their arms around each other smiling, and
then the next
5th photo is just people like crawling across the floor,
like their
touching each other.
As big as like
I can't
sweaty.
show these to anybody.
You think you're so glamorous at the time, but you're just like dripping with sweat.
So I didn't, and that was right near the end for me. So I didn't really get that into it, but I have friends who like definitely, loved Molly, and I remember one friend being like, yeah, it's a problem when it's like, you come home on a Tuesday night after work and you pop a tab of Molly and your girlfriend walks in and it's like, what are you doing? You're like, nothing.
Oh my God. Thank God I didn't get there. But it's so funny you said a second ago about like spirituality or whatever. Like I always felt like being high or drunk was like a shortcut to serenity. Right. Where you're just like, oh, I feel calm.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
And like that's what you're hunting. That's what you're looking for. That's what I'm looking for. Like I want to feel comfortable. Like I want to feel and like through sobriety I do feel that way.
Yeah
Like I've adjusted all my levels of like dopamine and serotonin are like at a point where like if someone offers me a free cookie I wasn't anticipating, it spikes me like, totally, like what?
Amazing.
This is the best day ever. Or like I told you, like I drink 2 cups of coffee and I'm like I feel like I'm rolling.
Totally.
Like I feel like I'm high.
I was joking the other day that like sometimes I get so high on coffee, I'm like, I think I need to reset my sobriety.
Totally. and when it's so funny because like like for a second you're like, oh, I'm looking for something else.
This is just another high.
Yeah.
Like don't kid yourself, Nick. You know what you're doing, and I do that with a lot of behavior too.
Absolutely.
But so you're getting into Molly and
and coke, like, and then so like that was like my 20s. Like my 20s were, I had this goal to be with my best friend, like gay Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
Right.
Like we wanted to write and be in movies and like do the next great screenplay. Totally. And like years went by.
Where you didn't do anything.
Nothing. Not one thing. Man. And there's something about like going out with friends, like thinking like, okay, like you get off work and you're like, I should work on that outline.
Right.
And then like your friend comes home and he's like, do you want to have a drink? And you're like, yeah. And like, let's work on the outline. Right. And then you have the drink and the computer's open, but like no one's typing. And then you have another drink and you're like, Matt and Billy are at Fubar. Do you want to go meet them? And then we'll come back. And it's like, yeah, let's do that. And then before you know it, it's 2:30 a.m. You're fucking high. You're at some stranger's apartment. I'm obviously speaking for myself right now. And you're like, whose dick am I sucking?
Right,
you know what I mean? Like
totally.
All of a sudden you're like,
what the fuck just happened?
So far.
I started out just writing.
Yeah, you're so far from, and then at some point in that night, you were like, tomorrow, I'll work on that line,
totally.
you know? And like, you know what's so embarrassing? At the age of 33, I just found out what the term like self-efficacy means. Like the showing up for yourself. Or, like,
yeah.
It's like, it's being a man of your word. And it's like, I couldn't trust myself.
The thing is, I'm pretty good at not letting other people down, but it's so easy for me to let myself down.
Sure.
It's so easy to not show up for myself. Like I like, you know, I'm getting paid to show up for something, I'll show up for it. But like, you know, just to do the things like to tend to my dreams, I've gotten so much better at it. But
same. But I want to be clear, I struggle daily.
Yeah.
My laptop sometimes feels 5,000 pounds to like
totally.
Or I'll open it and I'll just sit in front of it. You know what I mean? Like
right.
Whatever goes on in my head won't allow me to make positive steps for my own life. Yeah.
Totally.
But it's, like you
so
said,
it's 2:30 in the morning, you've got a strange dick in your mouth.
Strange dick in my mouth, as per usual. And like, but it was just like, it was kind of like that on loop, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And like, I often had no idea why I was in the room I was in, if that makes any sense. Like, I was a plus one. I was an accessory in other people's lives.
Totally.
I was fun.
Yeah.
And I was smiley and I had a great disposition, and people would, I think, often go, "Who's that Zach kid? He's great."
Yeah.
So I have this like positive feedback coming in.
Right.
But I wasn't doing anything for myself.
Right.
I was working 4 shifts a week at Cheesecake Factory, making ends meet.
And are you acting at that point?
No.
Are you doing auditions or in class?
I have like rock bottom type representation where they like send me an audition once a month for something I have no chance of getting.
Right.
And I am not taking classes because I don't think I need them because my ego's too big.
Right.
Because I studied I studied theater in college. Like, how dare you ask me to take an acting class?
Right.
And
are you doing stand-up?
I started doing stand-up probably I did my first set, like it was a Tammy Jo Deeren show. It was like a friend signed me up because I kept talking about wanting to do it. And
so it was this thing. Why did you want to do it? Like, what was that? Was that something that had always been there? I
loved stand-up.
Like watching it?
Yeah, like Sarah Silverman's Jesus is Magic really changed things for me.
Right.
And Ellen's Here and Now really like, and then like I remember, I'll never forget Amy Schumer's first Comedy Central half hour, CC Presents or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And I had it on my TiVo. It was like TiVo back in the day. And I make people like watch it with me because I thought it was just like
so funny.
The funniest thing I'd ever seen.
Right. That's so cool.
And and so like, but like with anything like back then, like I was less than half-assing it.
Right.
I was doing it when people asked me to do it. I had notes on stage. I didn't go to open mics. I wasn't like participating in it. I was just showing up.
How was that first Tammy Jo show?
You know what? So
Where was it?
It was at El Cid.
El Cid, right?
And it was I brought like 40 friends.
No way.
Oh, I was like a 24-year-old.
Oh my god.
Gay
she
boy.
must have been like, cha-ching, cha-ching,
$10 a head.
cha-ching.
$10 a pop.
Oh my god.
But not only that, it was like a 3-hour show.
Right.
And she had me go second to last.
Oh my god. That's
was
outrageous. Oh, because of course if you go, everyone leaves.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but and the other thing was like, and maybe it was the 40 friends, maybe it was just my dumb luck, but I had a fantastic first little set.
Sure.
I got lots of laughs, and it was a high big enough for my dumb brain to be like, more of that.
Yeah, totally.
But then of course, like I didn't do my next set for like 2 months.
Are there jokes from that you still like?
I have no idea. It was a solid 8 years ago.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah,
sometimes there is a joke that's still,
you know
whatever. You're in conversation and someone says something and then you like pull this like thing. I used to have a bit about that, whatever.
Oh, what's crazy is one of my first jokes was about a gay army.
Right.
Because about then it was like, don't ask, don't tell.
Right.
Fine, we have better secrets than you anyway. And a tattoo on my back says, I want you, with pink camo around it. And it's like for that first, one of the first jokes I ever wrote.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
but like,
cool.
I don't tell it anymore.
Right.
But, it was just like, I was in and out. I was still not showing up for myself. I liked it, but I'd have bad shows, and it made me not want to do it ever again.
Would you like booze your face off after a bad show, or no?
Yeah, no rhyme or reason really.
Right.
Sometimes I do shows drunk,
right.
you know, and I was so lost.
Right.
I didn't know which way was up. I didn't know what I wanted anymore, and it was compiled with years of not following through on anything.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I was so tired of myself.
Right.
And I got to the point, I guess, where I was, so at the end of my drinking and using, I was, first I was like, I'm not going to do drugs unless someone offers them to me.
That's a great one. That's amazing.
And like cut to me hanging out with my richest, most drug-riddled friends
right.
who always had piles of cocaine everywhere.
Right.
And like, do you want some? Like, me? Oh, I guess. Like, if you insist. And then like, so that was like one of the first things. And then I was doing a month off.
Right.
And it was always the best month of my year.
Right. You sleep, you do shit, you exercise.
You're
eat
working
well.
towards your goals. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on day 31,
boom.
head on the toilet.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they say like alcoholism is a progressive disease, and I think it is. You just pick up right where you left off, if not worse, because there's something in your brain that like clicks back in, and you're like, oh yeah,
right,
this makes us feel good. And you almost have that like month of like feeling proud of yourself compiled, so you're like,
right,
I can do anything, and I can celebrate, and I can like I can have it all.
Right.
And then
I deserve this.
Yeah. And then throwing up in a stranger's beach house toilet, like while they're having dinner, and you're just like, I'm fine. So yeah, and then I've
been there, definitely.
Oh, it's so embarrassing, you know. And then and truly for me, I shared at a meeting once, and the person got up after me and they're like, "Thank you for your white girl story," because it's true. Like I didn't lose a job.
Right.
To my knowledge, I didn't really lose any friends. I'm sure I had different friends because of my drinking.
Right.
But I was a quote unquote high bottom. But it's
what happened? Was there a moment?
I truly turned 30.
Right, 30.
And I was like, this is legit not cute.
Right.
It is not how 14-year-old me
saw
30-year-old me. I didn't even see myself beyond 27 at most of the time. And that's, I guess, a universal thing. Yeah. But, like, I was embarrassed for myself. I was like, wow, like, you have so much more in you.
Right.
And I just knew, my closest thing to an epiphany was knowing that alcohol and drugs would always be an on or off switch.
Right.
I knew there was no controlled drinking.
Yeah.
When I have that, I don't want, because multiple times throughout my binge drinking 20s, if I was in a situation where someone offered me one of something, I'd turn it down.
Right.
Because I knew I didn't want just one.
Right.
I was like, that's a waste of money, it's a waste of calories, it's a waste of time. Right. If you're going to give me a lot of it, like I want to get fucked up. And so I just knew that it was either take it or leave it. Yeah. And by this time I knew that 1 month wasn't going to change my life. So it was like, either you do this or you don't.
Had you been to meetings or anything?
No.
Right.
But I had done that thing where I was looking up where meetings were.
Me too.
And I was sitting, like Tropical Cafe. I would write there. I'd be like, I'm going to go write at Tropical for no reason.
So good.
I'm going to go write at Tropical. I'd sit at the bar at or the coffee bar at Tropical.
Yeah.
And I'd watch meetings come in and out.
Amazing.
And I'd be like, I'm going to go to the noon.
Right.
I'll go to the 2. Right. I'll go to the 3:30. Right. And then my laptop would die, and I'd be like, I need to go home and charge my laptop.
How long did that go on for? Sort of like peering
a few
into
weeks.
It. Right.
I had actually I think I had rage quit my serving job at this point.
Nice.
Because I thought I was smarter than everybody else, and I was so frustrated with how dumb everyone was. And
was it an ugly scene when you quit or no?
No.
Right.
It was just like
you were full of rage.
Ego. Just like blind. Oh. Do you know what you think back on like how you used to be, and you like I'm just like I have to cover my face like now, like I'm just like ashamed. Like I can't believe I talked to another human being like that. And I was in the wrong, you know?
Right.
But, I had I think I was vague booking, posting on Facebook, I can't believe, I don't know. I said something about needing work or like needing money, and 3 people reached out to help me. And I've now come to find out that those 3 people were all in the program.
Right.
And I just, looking back, that's so beautiful to me because it was truly the program working for me before I even set foot in a room.
Right.
And then one of them, beyond giving me work, would talk to me. He let me clean his house for money. And he would like talk to me about my
using.
Yeah.
Right.
And like, he never pushed it on me, but I knew he was in the program. I knew he had a lot of time in the program. And then I think one night he did say like, or it was like, I was working with him and he was like, I'm going to this meeting if you want to come. And I was like, okay.
You
and
went?
Like, yeah. And he took me. And it was this big meeting in Los Feliz. And it was a Saturday night.
Right.
And it was just huge. And like, I'll never forget, there were 2 speakers. The first speaker could not tell you anything about him. The second speaker is burned into my skull.
Totally.
And I laughed and I cried.
Right.
And even though it wouldn't be that night that I officially called myself an alcoholic, like, it gave me just enough hope and like faith to like check out another meeting.
And did you stop drinking at that point?
Yeah.
When had you stopped drinking?
So my last drink was Thanksgiving. It was Thanksgiving of 2015.
And is that before you went to this meeting?
Yep.
Right.
So
you
that
were
was Thursday.
Right.
Friday was my first sober day. And Saturday was my first meeting.
So Saturday you're cleaning the house or whatever, you're helping that guy, and he's like, "Hey, you want to come?" And,
yeah.
And at that point you're like, "I got fucked up at." Had you been like just fucked up at Thanksgiving?
It was almost one of those things where like, no, not really. It was a Friendsgiving.
Right.
We had gone out hard the night before.
Right.
I was surrounded myself with drinkers at the time.
Right.
So
sure.
The people hosting had pulled it together enough to host. They knew they had to host. I was hungover at Thanksgiving. I feel like I brought like pre-baked rolls as my contribution and like $2 chuck.
Right.
And I laid on the couch while everyone else was like helping.
Right.
And like I told myself I was hungover and I was like, obviously don't drink today. Like you feel gross, blah, blah, blah. I didn't even have shame about not helping, by the way.
Right.
I thought it was cool of me that I brought rolls and $3 wine.
Yeah.
And I didn't remember how I got a glass of wine in my hand. And I was like, this is insane. It was insane. It felt insane. Yeah. And I was just fed up. I was fed up with myself. So,
I was always trying to orchestrate what I would call, either in my head or to my friends, the soft landing. You know, I'd have like some like hideous bender on Friday or Thursday or Saturday, and then Sunday I'd be like, all right, how am I going to land this thing?
Sure.
So I'm not suicidal Monday morning.
Oh my God.
And I'd be like,
how do I
I'll exercise. So I would like
Yep.
fucking run 6 miles, and then I'd feel
get a massage,
good, and
or
I'd come home, and I'd have like I'll have just like. I'd be like, I'll have 1 glass of wine. No, I'll have 2 really stiff vodkas. That would do the trick.
Oh
like
God.
What can it be to make me just like feel good
off.
and go to sleep, and then I'll wake up and I'll find a new beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you're lying on the couch. Do you drink but whatever at some point?
Hungover, and I was drinking a glass of red wine. Yeah. And I was like, I was just disgusted with myself.
Did you finish that glass of red wine, or did you like? Yeah, I'm sure.
I probably did. Like, honestly,
like this will be the last one.
The last one. But you know what?
But that was in your mind. That's the last drink. That glass of wine.
That's
amazing. That's so cool.
And then of course, like with the program, I think I was so like emotional. Like the mind of an addict like is constantly on the hunt. It feels like for something outside of yourself
that's gonna make you
feel better.
Yeah.
And so like I found myself rageful, sad
in sobriety.
Yeah. Like those first like probably 6 months.
Right.
I just didn't know where my emotions were coming from. I was getting to know myself.
Sure.
Honesty has become such a big part of my life.
Right.
Whereas like this is so dumb, and I don't know why it sticks out of my head. I used to say I hated cats. Like, irrationally, like, hated cats. Like, if a cat came near me, I'd be like, ew, like, cat. I fucking love cats. Like, I love them. I want a cat. I used to think, like, dog people were better or cooler. So, like, and I was just, but on that level, on that dumb level, I was just lying about things.
Sure.
And so, like, now, if I say even a half lie, I get physically ill.
Right.
I have to text people. Like, someone will be able to be like, how much did you make for that voice gig or whatever? Right. And if I made $450, I'll say $500.
Right.
And then I'll fucking text that person 8 hours later. I'm sorry, I misspoke. I made $450.
Yeah, no, I think I do that too. I just can't, like, it feels gross carrying
feels
that with
disgusting.
you, you know?
And you have to go.
People think you're crazy.
Oh, they think you're a lunatic. but it's so important for my sobriety that I'm honest with myself at all times.
Yeah, that's great.
It starts there.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
Because if I start lying, then again my word doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And then it's like, fuck it. What's the point?
Right.
I'm not living an authentic life. I'm copping out. I'm choosing the easy road. So yeah.
And so at 6 months, did you start to find some sanity in the program or whatever in your sobriety?
Yeah, it was interesting. The first 6 months were just so weird because again, like I didn't like crash my car.
Right.
And I didn't like lose a leg. And I didn't, I didn't get broken up with because of my drinking. So I really had to like fight for my chair in that my fight for my seat,
I felt that way. Like sometimes I'd go into a room and they'd be like, "How long have you been sober?" And I'm like, 10 days. I mean, I remember this is one meeting.
Yeah.
And they're like, "What happened? Did you, were you in jail? Did you lose your wife? Did you lose your..." And I'm like, "No, none of these things happened to me." And I felt like somehow I didn't belong. And I had to remind myself that, like, what did they say? The only barrier, the only requirement for entry is a desire to stop drinking.
And your bottoms whenever you stop digging.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't heard that before.
I also, like, there's a term, high bottom.
Right.
And I used to cling to that. I was like, I'm a high bottom.
Right.
But, like, truly, I'm just a lucky rock bottom.
Totally.
I used to ride my motorcycle blackout drunk with basketball shorts and flip-flops.
Right. Yeah,
to the valley.
Yeah, like...
to hook up with a stranger.
Like, so lucky we survived.
10 things in that situation could have led to my death, Just did it on a Tuesday, you know what I mean? I did things that I willingly got into the trunk of a drug dealer on multiple occasions.
Right.
And it's just like, wow.
Why the trunk?
One time, it was because there were a bunch of people and we needed to get somewhere and I was the smallest.
Right.
And I feel like the other time, I don't know.
I just like the idea, like, okay, I'm gonna sell you drugs, but you can't know where.
I was gonna say,
get in the trunk.
I was gonna say one time I unfortunately thought it was like a collateral thing, like you go with him.
Right, we're holding.
And I was like, okay.
Zach's value is three 8-balls.
Yeah, they won't leave the twink. But just like
it's kind of like leaving your license behind or your cell phone.
Oh yeah.
Leave the twink.
But like nowadays, like I won't even get into a car with someone who's had 2 glasses of wine. Right. I'm like, I'll get a lift.
Yeah.
Like I'm not playing with that anymore.
Totally.
So
like 6 months in, the clouds, the sky clears a little bit.
I mean, the sky, like I was drifting in and out of that, like that pink cloud that people talk about. Like I was proud of myself, and like those months of sobriety I had held before, I didn't have hangovers anymore. Yeah, that in itself. Sometimes on I do gratitude lists pretty daily, and like no hangover pops up all the time.
It's funny, I used to be so thankful for that. That's one of the great things of having these conversations.
Oh, you forget?
I forget to be thankful for that, yeah.
I'm on a group chain with gratitude lists, and reading other people's gratitude lists are like, they floor me sometimes. My parents are alive. Yeah. I'm like, oh, fuck. Yeah, like, that hasn't popped up on my, Yeah. And sometimes it's like mac and cheese. I'm like, I fucking love mac and cheese. But yeah, so no hangovers, like alone, like my body was already starting to thank me. Like not that my skin was bad, but like your skin kind of like you look
better.
You look better.
I mean, it's one of the totally vain great things about sobriety is like, you look great.
I swipe through, I'm like on Tinder and stuff like that. And like, I'm swiping through these dudes who are like 26 who look older than me. And I'm like, and they have like the margarita in their hand. And you're like, bitch, you got to put it down.
That shit's
just for your face.
Yeah, totally.
And you may not be an alcoholic, but you look like my uncle.
It's not helping you. It's not helping you, man.
Yeah. But, so yeah, 6 months in. And then like, I know time is not a tool, but like I loved getting time.
Right.
Because it was part of that showing up for myself. It was like you set a goal, and every day you keep your sobriety, you're achieving this little goal.
Yeah.
And like this little goal grows over time. And then like slowly your life gets so much better.
And how has how has stand-up been affected by it all?
I mean,
obviously you've had an amazing year.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, but truly, like, I literally attribute all of my success to my sobriety.
Right.
My career did not begin until I got sober.
Right.
So, like, I was doing stand-up, yes, but, like, when people ask me how long I'm doing stand-up, I almost want to say 3 years and even less than that, because, like, I didn't even get serious about things until, like, 9 months into my sobriety.
Right.
When I was digging my claws into my dreams.
And what was it that got you serious about it at that point? Like, was there some sort of crystallizing thing?
It was just kind of like the turning 30, like, shit or get off the pot. Unfortunately, we're in, like, an age-based...
Yeah.
Or, like, they prize youth.
Yeah, totally.
So I was just like, oh, this is going to be really sad if you're 40 and still... sad for me, cater waitering,
yeah, no,
and
it's
doing
fine
open
for
mics.
me. It's fine for me.
I'm sitting in your gorgeous ass home. I do not feel bad for you on any level. So, no, there's like awards all over the place. I'm like, okay. No, I just like, for the goals I set for myself, I was just like, now's the time,
Yeah.
Like I have to do it now.
Yeah, so you get, so 9 months in, you kind of get serious about stand-up, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I just like, you're just like, I feel like the goal of my sobriety is to be present and mindful and like literally take things minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day.
Right.
And like that just comes into stand-up because I started listening to audiences.
Right.
Like I started hearing things I didn't hear. I started picking up on energy I didn't pick up on before.
What's an example of hearing something in the audience? Like, do you remember a time when you were like, "Oh, the audience is talking to me in a way"?
It's just like it's. So first of all, when I'm on a show, I like to watch the other comics before I go up.
Totally.
It blows my mind when comics sit in the green room before going up and like not
getting a read of the room.
Yeah. Because,
right.
like, I'll never forget one time there was, like, a redhead girl in the front row, and the first comic, like, picked on her a little bit or whatever, and it was funny. And
right.
then the second comic did it,
right.
and it was, like, iffy.
Right.
And so when the third comic came out, I could feel in the room everybody
like,
going,
lay off.
Don't talk to this poor girl.
Right.
And he did. And he was like, what's wrong? Like, he turned
just
the room
right.
because he wasn't listening, and he wasn't there.
Well, and this also, when shit like that has happened, that's the conversation that you're joining as a comic.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I want to be part of that conversation, And there's just opportunity there, if nothing else. Like, to be like, hey, so when you came out, were you like, hey, fucking lay off the redhead?
I think I went in on the comic. I'm like, I love how he doesn't like your hair. His hair looks like it was cut in a blender or something.
Right,
and
right.
it's like, bah! And everyone's like, thank God he said what we were all thinking.
Right.
So yeah, and it's just like, or it's like I can hear another comic does and tailor my set. I go, don't do your AIDS joke. This crowd does not want to hear your AIDS joke. Even though it's really good. But
Did you take Jerry's class?
No.
You didn't.
I'm an honorary Jerry's kid.
How do you get that honorary? Like, just you have so many friends from that world.
I wrote with them a lot. Like, I think...
How did you fall into that crowd? Was there somebody?
Bill? Bill Dixon is a friend. Heather Pasternak's a friend. Right. Chris Bryan and I kind of started, and we were both gay, both gay comics. Like, we got
so you would see each other at shows and stuff.
Yeah, we crossed paths.
Right.
That's a great question. Peggy Sinnott is one of my best friends in comedy.
So it's just from the comedy world.
Yeah,
basically,
just comedy
seeing
world.
all those
There's
people.
like kind people, who like
they are really nice people,
and they write. Like they're all about the writing, which I love.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just
And so it's funny. I was looking for something on Facebook, and I went through my Facebook page, and I saw that you and I did a show together actually once. Years ago at Genghis Cohen.
Oh,
it was
God.
like Michael Cornacchia's.
Oh Michael
show.
Cornacchia, I actually thank in my head because I feel like he kept booking me
right
at a time in my life when I was like no, it's not for me.
Right.
No. And like, he was just like nice enough and like jolly enough that I like would do his shows.
His show was fun to do.
He's
I mean,
just,
even if it was like I did that show, he had that shitty little bar, the Bayou, and no
oh.
one would even be in there. But
no
it was
one
like
knew comedy was happening. It was he made
it seem fun.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
But he took a liking to me for whatever reason, and because of him, I think he got me through that
dark,
a rough
like,
patch.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And then what? How did you come out of the dark patch? Was there like a thing, or you just kept doing it?
I just kept doing it. I think it felt like with acting in LA, it's like you fight and claw to get a commercial audition for like Bounty paper towels, and it's like, well, this isn't fulfilling at all.
Yeah.
Like I skipped work. I was in traffic. I fucked up the audition. I didn't get a call back, and now I don't have any money, and I don't have a gig.
And I'm frustrated as
hell.
hell.
And so stand-up always to me was like, I grew up on stage. Yeah. Right. So like, it was like that live performance thing. It felt like I could take control of my career a little bit. Because it was like, totally. Oh, I can write jokes.
Yeah.
And I can be successful this way.
Right.
And so... And then like I wasn't bad, but I guess I was just good enough that I kept getting like, bar shows and like bringer shows, and like I am always floored that any stand-up comedian gets through the rough patch.
Totally.
So, especially in LA, like coming up in LA, like you're on lineups with like professional headlining comics. Like you have to get good.
Yeah. I mean, that's invigorating to me. I mean, I found like that's like, oh wow, I did a show with Sarah Silverman tonight. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly.
Like I didn't see that as like that was never part of the plan.
Sure, but it's like, oh, you have to leave an impression on that audience.
Yeah, and also
above Sarah Silverman.
I guess I always wanted to impress Sarah Silverman. Like, is she gonna remember me? Like, no.
Of course she didn't watch. Yeah,
like she didn't watch. But
there's this
totally.
whole thing too, like you when you see like that comic you admire on the line, and be like, oh, I hope they see me.
Right?
Like I want them to see me. But
every now and then someone sees you, and like some comic is like, that's a great set, man, and you're like, oh Jesus Christ, you just fucking made my day.
I know.
My life.
And it's just enough. We're
it
just enough to
going.
keep doing.
But I mean that and the laughter, the laughter of the audience is so intoxicating.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's definitely the highest high I ever had beyond anything ever.
I've been opening for a Mexican comic, Sofia Niño de
Rivera.
Oh yeah,
I've seen some of your posts.
It's incredible. She's huge. Her last Netflix special is in front of 10,000 people.
What's her name again?
Sofia Niño de Rivera.
Right.
And she has 2 Netflix specials, but the last one was in front of 10,000 people. She's been doing her first US tour, and the LA show was at the Wiltern.
Amazing.
And my dad was in town, so he got to come. And my dad is like someone who saw me do stand-up shittily in front of 8 people in a bar.
And was like,
yeah, and like couldn't say much, but like loves me and was kind, but like it's just like I can't think about it because it'll make me cry, because it's just like you got to see me like perform for like 1,600 people and like do well.
Did you
like,
kill?
It was not bad, that's for sure. And then that's the other thing, like so I came out to the lobby after the show to get him, and all of these fans of Sophia's ran up and wanted to take pictures with me and stuff, and I was like, this is...
How did that gig come about?
She saw me, so I opened for Deborah DiGiovanni in Canada often, and we were doing a show in Vancouver. I think it was for one of the Just for Laughs, like it was for one of those festivals, but it was at a proper club in Vancouver, and she was in the audience.
Right.
And so she came up to me after a show, and her English is great. Right. But she was like, I am Sophia, like I do comedy in Mexico. You should come do comedy in Mexico sometime. We would love you. Right. And she's like, can I take a picture with you? And at this point, I was like, oh, this sweet girl. I take a picture with her. I walk away. 15 minutes later, I have like 140 new followers on Instagram.
Right. You're
and I'm like,
what just happened? Right.
And I check my story. She has 500,000 followers on Instagram.
Right.
And so months later, she messaged me on Instagram, and she was like, I'm looking for an opener for my US tour. Amazing. Can you help? And I interpreted that to be like, oh, do you need like a bilingual comic? Right. And she's like, oh, I was thinking you, but sure, give me a list of bilingual comics.
No, you're like, no, I'm not going to do that.
No, but, and you know what's beautiful is like, because of like the program I work, I was like overjoyed to go through my list of peers and be like, this person would be good. This person would be good. This person would be good. And I gave her a list of like 6 or 8 comics I knew. And she used me, thankfully, for most of the shows, but she also used one of the comics I suggested
Right. Oh, that's good.
for a weekend.
Right.
And that comic, like, it was a great gig. Like,
Right.
and that comic and I got to bond over how great the gig was.
Right.
And it was like, I don't know. It's like, I've surrendered in lots of ways. And one of those is like, if it's not meant for me, it's not meant for me.
Right.
And there's something very calming about that. Like,
sure.
I'm taken care of. Like, we didn't really talk about this, but like, the program has led me down a spiritual path, and I did not have a God before the program. I grew up Catholic. I did not like that God. That God said that my pets didn't go to heaven. That God said I could be gay, but I couldn't act on it. You know, like, that God was like hateful, and I have this new God that I love.
And how do you in your mind, like, how do you imagine that God? Like, is it sort of the same type of sort of omnipotent power of the Catholic Church, only this one's benevolent, this one gives a shit?
This one's super kind. This one to me is, my God is positive energy.
Right.
So it's anything good that happens. It's like that moment where you and the cashier like share a genuine moment where you like see into each other's
and
souls.
you're like, that's God.
Like, that's God, yeah. Or
Totally.
like a puppy who just runs into you and like wants to like play, like, that's God. But I don't believe, like, is that a landline? Is that a fax machine? What is that?
No one. The crazy thing is, no one has answered that phone.
Is that your
in
Golden
like
Globe?
40 years.
Is that your Golden Globe calling?
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
No, but my God now, like, I don't pretend that like my God does things to challenge me. I believe that my God is there to help me get through those things.
Right.
Like, I kind of believe in a good versus evil, like almost like a God devil thing or Satan thing where like bad things will continue to happen.
Sure.
And my God is not causing those bad things to
Right.
happen. My God is there for me to say I'm going to get through them and going to help me on the other side. And like, my God is going to try their best to protect me.
Right.
But nothing's guaranteed.
Yeah.
And that's where gratitude comes into play. Because it's like, I'm not guaranteed my health. Like, plain and simple. Like, and no amount of praying will keep me healthy. But like, I have faith that I'll get through whatever's, whatever I'm dealt.
It's fun. You know, I studied theology at Georgetown University.
Oh, brag.
And I taught it a little bit there too. I was like a teaching assistant.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like this prominent Christian philosopher named John Bowker. I'm probably fucking this all up because it's been like 20 years since I read this stuff. But he was like articulating his vision of God and why he believes God exists. And he said when two lorry drivers, truck drivers, are driving down a desolate highway in the middle of the night and they flash each other their lights to say hello, he knows God exists.
I love that. That's
right there.
Yeah, like, it's that kindness from strangers.
Yeah.
A lot of people have trouble with the word God in the program, I think, and they substitute love.
Right. Yeah.
God is love. So if you believe in love, I think part of you believe, because all these people, so many people are like agnostic or atheist or like, no, we're on our own. Yeah. Your decisions dictate your future. And to some extent, I truly believe like life is about choices. It's like that morning when you wake up, like, do I hit snooze or do I get out of bed?
Right.
Do I eat pancakes or do I eat eggs? Do I do 50 crunches or do I lay on my back and look at Facebook? Like, I haven't looked at Facebook in forever, but Instagram,
Right.
But beyond that, like, I absolutely believe, there's something bigger than us. There's something that unites us.
There is that notion in the program that you have to surrender to something bigger than us. And my sponsor said that, like, when he looked at the things that had happened to him in life, the big things, getting married, getting a job, they were all like out of his control. So clearly there was something bigger at work that he has nothing to do with.
Absolutely.
And however you define that, I mean, and I talked about this a little bit, but I define it as chaos because it's like, and I'm fine with the chaos because the chaos relieves me of responsibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's out of my hands.
Yeah, sorry. And I almost to a fault. Like I feel like I should maybe take
Try
back some of the responsibility.
Like,
I think I need to admit
that. Yeah.
Some of this shit is actually my fault.
Sure.
Sorry guys, it's not just the chaos. But anyway.
Yeah, there's that whole like next indicated step.
Yeah. Like you still have a lot of
What
responsibility.
is in your control? Yeah. Like if I don't do well on stage, I can look back and be like, I didn't work on that joke. Like I said I was going to. Or it's like, I didn't develop that thought. And like, that is 100% my part in this. Like, I didn't deliver a joke that was perfectly written and then the audience didn't like it. It's like, I stumbled through a premise and they gave me exactly what I deserved. You know, a smattering of he-he's.
We should probably wrap this up, but I wanted to just ask you, how was Just for Laughs?
Oh my God. Just for Laughs was
I mean, to me, it's like the, you know, it really is like the capstone of a young comic's career. Like, it's sort of like you've arrived. It's your graduation from young comedy in some ways.
It's like your, what's the debutante's ball? It's like a coming out, or it's like a, and like anything else, it's not arbitrary, but it's like, it's so chance. Yeah. You know, it's doing well at one of two auditions.
Is that what you did? You auditioned? You have to go and do like a showcase for
there's 2 rounds. Right. There's the audition and then there's the callback.
Mm-hmm. Where did you do the audition? I still remember seeing it on Facebook or something, like West Side Comedy or something.
Yeah. So for complete transparency, I missed the audition.
Don't try this at home.
Yeah, I know. But based on my tape, they let me come to a callback.
Oh, nice. And wow.
Yeah. Which was, I'm very lucky. And then my callback was at West Side.
Right.
The 8 p.m. show.
That's the thing I saw. That's
the other thing that was like, oh, it's great. And I don't know if you know this, Amazon did a series this year called Inside Jokes. It followed 7 comics from audition, callback to JFL.
Are you one of the comics?
No, but you'll see me in the background if you watch it.
No way.
It's It's a great docuseries. Awesome. It's 6 episodes long.
Is it on?
Yeah, it's on
I feel like
Amazon Prime right now.
I'll have to check that out.
Oh, it's very good.
That sounds great.
It literally shows how grueling it is to be a comic at this level because they all have side gigs. Right. They're all trying so hard. And like you said, like, they see it as a real, not make it or break it, but it's like, it can change your career.
Totally.
And so many of my class, like, have done their late night sets now. Right. Or they signed with big managers, like, it's so crazy. It's at the most beautiful theater in Montreal. It's 800 seats. Right. It's packed. Right. And at orientation, they were like, every comic's here, but everyone's most excited for new faces. Totally. And I didn't believe it. Right. Until that night. Yeah. And the energy was unlike anything I've ever felt before.
How'd your set go?
Pretty good.
I saw a joke on Facebook. Was that from Just for Laughs?
So Just for Laughs Digital had me do a set at Lyric Hyperion a few months ago, and they took a snippet from that. So that wasn't for my showcase, but my set went well. I got the Village Voice wrote me as one of the best of best of the new faces.
So cool. That's so cool.
So it's truly, and like from that, of course, it's like, I got like Fox has a night of comedy that they do once a year, and I got Fox's night of comedy from JFL.
And when does that air?
It was just a show at the Improv. But it's like they pack out the Improv with industry in LA. It's like writers, casting directors, showrunners, and like 8 comics. 6 were New York, 2 were LA.
Who was the other LA comic?
Laurie Kilmartin.
Oh, she's great. That's amazing.
She writes for Conan. She's like, and like
older than me.
She's been she's been around.
No, I love that. I mean, I just love to see. I mean, she's funny as hell. Like, I love every time I see her. I'm like, she's great. Yeah. Like, and I've done shows with her. And she has her kid like sitting out in Tammy's waiting room. So sweet, man. It's nice to like, women supporting other women comics. I think it's great to see.
But it was great. But yeah, all these things happened from JFL.
So cool. Well, I didn't really know you as a comic. I saw you do the very prestigious Home Dog LA charity benefit.
Oh my gosh!
Which I'd done a show with you, and I had seen you at Leg Day a couple times, maybe, and I saw you do that set, and you destroyed. I mean, you were so good. I mean, as a comic, sometimes I'm jealous, and sometimes I'm excited, and sometimes I'm bored, sometimes I'm annoyed, sometimes I want to be up there.
Joke. Yeah,
and I just thought you were great. Anyway, and then I remember like reaching out to you to get you to do that show for my kid's school.
Yeah, the backyard
which you
show.
Destroyed at. It's so
I can't
funny.
believe I talked about fingering a lot in that.
Yeah,
set.
no, it's amazing. I still like I laugh too.
Oh, did I tell you I had a meeting with Grindr like a few days later,
And
I was
Carter
walking down the
was
hall.
there?
Yeah, and this guy comes out of his office and he goes, I knew that voice. He's like, this one
That's
just
amazing.
talked about fingering for 15 minutes at a school benefit. And I was like,
What were you
come
meeting
on.
at Grindr
Just
for?
like to produce content.
Right.
They have Into, which is like a lifestyle brand.
Well, and you do a lot of like, I mean, yeah,
Grindr stuff,
your
yeah.
Grindr jokes are really funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then what's next? Do you know?
In general, like I'm shooting a show for E right now.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it'll air the end of January.
Cool.
It's like it's not scripted. It's like comedian driven.
And are you present for all this? Are you enjoying it?
Oh my god. Yeah.
It's funny. I had a show at Sundance last year, and I went for it, and I was anxious about a lot of things, but I just wanted to have a good time.
Yeah.
And I had a great time.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think I ever could have experienced that without sobriety. Like just to be like, thankful for it all.
Yeah.
You know?
Gratitude. Everything. Yeah. I'm so present. I've literally almost when I got another thing recently, and when it happened, I went hunting for a sponsee. I literally was like, I'm not losing my program.
Right.
I'm doing more
because it was like a good thing.
It was a good thing.
Right.
And I was like, I am not going to fuck this. I attribute everything to my program. So I'm just like, how can I dive deeper? I need a sponsee. I need to start giving this away.
I need to hear that.
Oh yeah.
I need to be reminded.
Oh yeah. But it's funny that I was like fear based. I was like,
oh yeah, like, totally.
I'm working. Like,
yeah,
I'm doing this out.
Yeah, like good shit's happening.
Yeah.
I know why.
Yeah.
And so I gotta like, it's like working out, a little bit like that, show up for that shit.
Exactly like working out. If you skip the gym one day, no big deal. 2 days, okay. If you skip the gym 3 days in a row, I feel it. Like I feel softer. I feel looser.
Totally, and I also feel like I'll never exercise again.
Yeah. Soon you build that wall.
And then I'm like, oh, why?
Why am I doing this? Nothing's ever gonna happen. But it's like little by little.
Yeah.
So yeah, I almost said it. The program's like the gym for my mind and soul.
Right. Cool. Yeah. Well, Zach, thank you so much for coming in. I'm glad that I persistently stalked you until you would do this.
Thank you for doing that.
Drunkalogs cover art is designed and created by John DeManil, and the Drunkalogs theme song is composed and performed by Stephen Stout. I am Nick Morton.